When you first arrive in Siem Reap, it's hard to look past the temples. Tour buses line the polished streets. Cafes buzz with accents from every continent. But take one wrong turn, or perhaps the right one, and the pavement ends. Dust rises. The air changes. Just a few blocks away, barefoot children chase old tires down dirt alleys, and a woman boils water over open flames meters from a boutique hotel with infinity pools. In the shadows of ancient stone towers, another Cambodia breathes. Quietly, stubbornly. Here in neighborhoods tourists never see survival isn't a tour. It's a routine. And this is the Siem Reap no guidebook ever mentions. Number 1 life behind the tourist zone. Dirt roads stretch under a relentless sun. And houses are built from scrap wood, rusted tin, and whatever else could be salvaged. This is the edge of the city, the fringes where the light of tourism rarely reaches. Geographically, these neighborhoods cluster around the outskirts of Siem Reap province, spreading like silent shadows along National Road 6 and beyond. They're not on any tourist map. These communities are tucked between rice fields and construction zones, and they've been here long before the first souvenir shop popped up near Angkor Wat. People here don't work in air-conditioned offices. They work with their hands, their backs, and their willpower. Some rise before the sun to walk to small farms tending to crops that depend entirely on erratic rainfall. Others pack baskets with bananas or grilled fish and balance them on their shoulders, weaving through traffic to sell at market corners. Tuk-tuk drivers wait for hours under metal sheet roofs, hoping for a single ride. And then there are the day laborers, men and women who stand by the roadside every morning, unsure if they'll find work that day. The homes, if you can call them that, are often no more than single-room shacks. Walls made of woven bamboo, floors of packed earth. Entire families sleeping under mosquito nets hung from rafters, fashioned from old bicycle parts. On the best days, there's rice for every meal. On the harder days, a bowl of plain porridge must stretch to feed many mouths. Yet life here is not without rhythm. There is a routine, simple, repetitive, but laced with resilience. At dawn, buckets are filled at shared wells or rainwater tanks. Fires are lit with bits of dry wood and coconut husks. Children help their parents before walking long distances to overcrowded schools, often without shoes. In the afternoon, elders sell homemade snacks on the roadside. By evening, most homes are dark. Electricity is patchy, and many can't afford it regularly. Access to basic services remains one of the toughest battles. According to the Cambodia Socioeconomic Survey of the year 2024, only about 45% of rural households in Siem Reap have consistent access to clean water. Electricity is available in name, but power cuts are frequent and costly. Sanitation is even more concerning. An estimated 1 in every 3 families still lacks access to a proper toilet, relying instead on open defecation or makeshift latrines. What this means in daily life is more than inconvenience. It's a constant threat to health and dignity. Children suffer most with waterborne diseases, remaining a leading cause of illness. Many families report walking more than half an hour just to reach the nearest public tap. And during the dry season, even that tap might run dry. Still, the people here don't complain much. They laugh, they share, they get on with it. In a neighborhood where poverty is normal, kindness becomes currency. A borrowed kilo of rice, a shared bar of soap, a neighbor who watches your kids while you chase another day's work. This too is Siem Reap. It is not glamorous and it will never make the cover of a travel brochure. But it is honest. It is raw. And it reveals something no ancient temple ever could: the quiet strength of ordinary people who choose every day to keep going. Because survival here isn't an act of desperation, it's an act of courage. Number 2. A day of hard labor. The sun hasn't even risen, but the clatter of aluminum pots and the low murmur of voices signal the start of another day in the poorer neighborhoods of Siem Reap. In a tiny wooden shack near the edge of the city, Mr. Chan, 52 years old and a day laborer, wakes up before dawn. He shares this space with his wife and 2 grandchildren. Breakfast. Just a bowl of plain rice with salt and a few slices of pickled radish. No coffee, no eggs, just enough to quiet the stomach. By 6 o'clock, he's already on his way. Strapped to the back of his rusted bicycle is a plastic bucket, a shovel, and a pair of worn-out gloves. These are his tools, his entire business. He pedals through clouds of red dust, past billboard signs of luxury spas, to reach the city's growing construction zones, where workers like him hope to be picked up for a day's work. There's no guarantee. Some days he gets a spot. Some days he waits for hours only to pedal back home empty-handed. Today, he's lucky. He's been hired to carry bricks, back-breaking labor under the scorching sun. Temperatures in Siem Reap can hit over 100 degrees Fahrenheit by midday, and the only shade comes from the skeletal frame of the unfinished building. Dust clings to every surface, and water breaks are rare. The noise is constant hammers, shouting foremen, and the grinding hum of cement mixers. Mr. Chan doesn't complain. For him, hard work is survival. By 5 in the afternoon, his shirt is soaked with sweat, and his hands are calloused raw. For 10 hours of labor, he earns the equivalent of $3. It's not much, but it's something. He isn't alone. Thousands like him work in Cambodia's informal sector, which as of the year 2024 makes up nearly 85% of the country's labor force, according to data from the International Labor Organization. That includes lottery ticket vendors, street food sellers, recyclers, and housemaids. People with no contracts, no benefits, no safety nets. Take Srey Mao, for example. She's 27 and spends her mornings sifting through trash bins in the city's back alleys, collecting cans and plastic bottles. If she's lucky, she earns enough to buy a kilo of rice and a few vegetables. On days when there's rain and the plastic is soaked, buyers pay less. On days when the trash truck comes early, there's nothing left to collect. It's a job of chance, of scavenging and silent prayers. Or consider the women selling lottery tickets under faded umbrellas near old temples. Most of them are widows or single mothers. They walk miles each day, weaving between tourists and locals alike, repeating the same gentle pitch over and over. A full day's sales might bring in $2, maybe less. So how do they survive? They plan meticulously. Rent even in these rundown areas can cost the equivalent of $20 to $30 a month. That leaves almost nothing for emergencies. Families share everything. One small pot of food might serve 6 mouths. Children start helping young running errands, collecting water, even working part-time instead of going to school. There's no room for extravagance, no weekend escapes, no online shopping. Here, every single riel counts. But within this hardship, there's also grit, an unshakable drive to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against them. Mr. Chan, despite his aching bones, jokes with his neighbors. Srey Mao dreams of saving enough to open a small snack stall. And the women selling lottery tickets. They still believe every day that someone might win, perhaps even themselves. Because in these streets where money is scarce and comfort is a luxury, hope isn't just a feeling, it's fuel. And work, no matter how humble, is their way of holding on. Number 3. Displaced by development. Development comes at a cost. And for many families in Siem Reap, that cost is paid in silence, away from the spotlight, far from the stone temples and tourist trails. Over the past decade, as the city pushes to modernize and attract more foreign investment, a wave of urban restructuring has taken place. Old neighborhoods once nestled close to the city center have been cleared to make way for hotels, shopping complexes, and wide boulevards. In exchange, residents were offered new beginnings in relocation zones, government-constructed resettlement areas, miles away from their original homes. But those zones, they're often anything but a fresh start. Most of these relocation sites lie over 10 kilometers from Siem Reap's urban core. That may not sound like much until you factor in the reality. Public transportation is nearly non-existent. The nearest market over 30 minutes by bicycle. The closest school sometimes even farther. And for those without motorbikes or the money for fuel, every trip becomes a small mission. According to a 2024 report by the Cambodian Ministry of Land Management, over 20,000 individuals in Siem Reap province have been relocated due to urban development projects since 2015. But less than 40% of them reported access to stable income sources after relocation. Why? Because the jobs they once relied on, cleaning hotel rooms, selling street food, or working construction, were all based in the city center. Take Soka, for example, a mother of 3, who once sold grilled bananas outside a guest house near Pub Street. After being moved to a relocation site in the Banteay Chas commune, her income dropped by more than half. With no foot traffic, her stall sees only a handful of customers a day. Her husband, formerly a tuk-tuk driver, now rides over 12 kilometers daily just to line up in the city, hoping to catch a tourist. Some days, he earns nothing. And yet, despite everything, they adapt. Many families have rebuilt homes using leftover materials, corrugated iron roofs, bamboo walls, and second-hand doors. Some have turned small yards into vegetable gardens. Rows of morning glory lemongrass and papaya trees now grow where cement hasn't reached. It's not just about food. It's about dignity, about creating something from nothing. Children ride rusty bicycles for miles to attend school. Parents pool money to buy shared generators or solar lights. The community slowly and quietly stitches itself back together. But beneath this perseverance lies a deeper ache, one that isn't always visible. We used to live 5 minutes from the hospital, says Dara, a former city cleaner. Noun. If someone gets sick, we have to pray it isn't serious. Others speak of isolation not just from the city, but from each other. Before we were neighbors. Now we're scattered, one woman shares. I don't even know who lives next door anymore. These are not stories of failure. They are stories of people left behind in the name of progress. Because in the rush to modernize, something gets lost. The web of daily life, the fragile balance of work, school, and survival. Relocation doesn't just move houses. It uproots routines, breaks support systems, and displaces identities. Yes, buildings rise. Roads get wider. Tourist numbers go up. But in the spaces between those numbers, real families are figuring out how to start over again and again. And sometimes rebuilding a life costs more than just bricks and labor. It costs the past. Number 4. Broken roads. Forgotten people. In some corners of Siem Reap, when the sun sets, darkness doesn't just fall, it swallows. There are no streetlights here. No sidewalks, no city planners mapping out vibrant neighborhoods. These are places that time and policy seem to have forgotten. Let's talk about infrastructure, or the lack of it. Many roads in these outskirt communities aren't paved. During the dry season, they turn into clouds of choking dust with every passing motorbike. During the rainy months, which now stretch longer due to shifting weather patterns, these same paths become sticky rivers of red mud. Children walk barefoot to school, balancing on narrow bamboo planks. Mothers carry water jugs on their heads, slipping and sliding through puddles the size of bathtubs. And for anyone riding an old motorbike, good luck. One wrong move and you're knee-deep in muck. Now zoom in a little further into the alleys. Some of them barely fit two people side by side. The drainage system. It's DIY. Hand-dug trenches, broken PVC pipes, open channels where wastewater mixes with rain. In many places, there is no drainage at all. That means sewage dishwater and even bathwater flow straight into the dirt roads, creating foul-smelling streams that trickle right past front doors. According to a 2024 study by the Cambodian Urban Infrastructure Review Board, over 30% of peri-urban neighborhoods in Siem Reap lack access to formal waste disposal systems. That's not just a statistic, it's everyday life for thousands. And it gets worse near the dumps. Many of these communities have sprung up on land that once had another purpose. Rice fields, government-owned plots, even abandoned construction sites. Slowly, without permits or oversight, makeshift homes were built. Today, some of these homes sit right next to open garbage pits. Others border stagnant ponds once used for irrigation, now turned into breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Without any municipal waste collection, people do what they can. They burn their trash plastic rubber food scraps right in front of their homes. The smell acrid and sharp. Children play just feet away. In some cases, trash is buried in shallow pits behind the house. When the rains come, those pits overflow, carrying waste into nearby footpaths and water sources. And it's not just about sanitation. The absence of community infrastructure paints a bigger picture. No public parks, no playgrounds, no gathering spaces. There are no benches beneath trees because there are no trees. After 7 in the evening, the entire area goes dark. Streetlights none. So people stay indoors, or they sit on plastic chairs under dim porch bulbs hoping for a breeze. Number 5. The market that feeds a community. Tucked behind a row of dusty palm trees, far from the polished cafes and souvenir shops of central Siem Reap, lies a market that never makes it onto tourist maps. There's no grand entrance, no signs, just the steady hum of daily life voices, bartering knives, chopping and flip-flops, slapping the damp concrete. This is Pasar Tropiang Tom, a modest wet market that serves as the beating heart of one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. From the moment you step in, the atmosphere wraps around you like steam from a pot of boiling soup. Here, plastic tarps flap in the breeze, tied loosely to bamboo poles. Stalls are built from salvaged wood and corrugated metal, nothing fancy, but enough to hold baskets full of morning glory papaya, lemongrass, and wild greens plucked at dawn. Fish wiggle weakly in shallow trays. Slabs of pork hang from metal hooks, dripping slowly under the weight of the midday heat. There's no refrigeration, just faith and fast sales. According to the Cambodian Ministry of Agriculture's Rural Economy Report from the year 2024, nearly 70% of informal food markets across the country lack basic cold storage or sanitation infrastructure. That number is even higher in non-urban districts like Siem Reap's outer communes. But for the vendors here, that's not news, it's routine. Take Grandma Rani, for example. She's 70 years old, wears a straw hat patched together with nylon string, and sells grilled bananas on a charcoal stove made from an old oil can. Her income about 4,000 riel a day, roughly $1. Just enough to buy rice and dried fish for dinner. "I don't sell to get rich," she says with a smile. I sell so I can eat. And that's the reality for most here. These aren't businesswomen in any traditional sense. They are survivors. Widows, grandmothers, mothers with babies tied to their backs. They wake up before dawn, cook, carry, clean, and set up shop rain or shine. Not for profit, but for survival. Unlike the shiny, organized markets near tourist hubs, this place runs on improvisation and instinct. Prices aren't listed, they're negotiated. Scales optional. Transactions happen fast, often with a smile and a nod. There's trust here, built over years of daily exchanges. And yet, despite the hardship, there's life raw and unfiltered. Kids dart between stalls chasing plastic balls. Vendors trade jokes while fanning flies away. A man walks by, carrying a loudspeaker on his shoulder, advertising second-hand clothes in a sing-song voice. Everything feels alive, like the market itself is breathing with its people. But behind the smiles, there's a quiet urgency. One spoiled batch of fish could mean no dinner. A rainy day can wash away an entire week's earnings. And when prices for goods like rice or gasoline spike, it doesn't just hurt, it breaks the fragile balance that holds these lives together. That's what makes this market more than just a place to buy food. It's a symbol, a space where community still thrives even when infrastructure fails, where resilience wears an apron and wields a chopping knife, where struggle is softened, if only a little, by routine and relationships. And if you listen closely between the clang of pans and the rhythm of barefoot footsteps, you'll hear something remarkable. The sound of dignity echoing in the most unexpected of places. Because in markets like this, people aren't just selling goods, they're holding on to life. Number 6. Quiet acts of resilience. Hope in places like these rarely makes headlines. It doesn't arrive in grand speeches or big-budget campaigns. It comes in smaller forms, quiet, steady, and often homemade. In the outskirts of Siem Reap, where poverty has long been a daily reality, something remarkable is taking shape. Amid the hardship, people aren't just waiting for help, they're building their own paths forward. And they're doing it with whatever they have. Start with a simple bamboo shack, no bigger than a garage. Inside, children gather on woven mats, pencils clutch tightly, eyes wide open. This is not a school funded by any government. It's a volunteer-run classroom set up by a former tuk-tuk driver named Mr. Vichaya. After losing his job during the pandemic, he started tutoring local kids for free, using his own savings to buy second-hand books and chalkboards. Today, his class reaches more than 30 students a week. And it's not the only example. In another neighborhood, women come together every weekend for a market called Swap Sundays. Here there's no money exchanged. Instead, people bring what they have, rice soap handmade bracelets, and trade for what they need. It's a system built on trust and community, a modern spin on an ancient tradition. According to a community resilience report published in early 2025 by the Cambodian Development Resource Institute, informal exchange markets like these have helped reduce short-term food insecurity by nearly 20% in low-income districts. These aren't just survival tactics. They're sparks of reinvention. Take Srailik, a woman in her early 40s. Once a housemaid with no stable income, she now runs a small sewing shop from her front porch. It began with one donated machine and a few online tutorials. Now she's teaching teenage girls how to sew, giving them both a skill and a sense of purpose. She says, "I used to clean for others. Now I create." That changes everything. But behind many of these quiet revolutions are the invisible hands of volunteers and nonprofit groups. Organizations like Open Schools Cambodia and Help Code have expanded their outreach in recent years, offering workshops on financial literacy, farming techniques, and digital skills. In 2024 alone, over 5,000 families in Siem Reap province received direct support through small-scale grants training sessions or microcredit programs aimed at helping them launch home-based businesses. It's not always easy. Resources are limited. Access to consistent internet or capital is still a barrier. But what keeps everything going isn't money, it's mindset. There's a phrase locals often say, "We may not have much, but we have each other." That spirit shows up in the way neighbors help one another build a new roof after a storm, or how youth volunteers repaint old fences to brighten up alleyways. It's visible in shared meals, borrowed bicycles, and hours of unpaid effort poured into building something that feels like progress, even when the world doesn't notice. Because here's the truth. Transformation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a mother teaching her daughter to weave mats in the evening light. Sometimes it's a second-hand book passed from one child to another. And sometimes it's just the decision to stay, to try again, to grow something small into something that lasts. In the quiet corners of poverty, resilience becomes its own kind of wealth. And in these communities, that wealth is growing one act of hope at a time. As our journey through the hidden corners of Siem Reap comes to an end, one thing becomes clear. This city is far more than its ancient temples. Behind the postcard views lies a deeper story. A story of quiet strength of families rebuilding with bare hands, of communities holding on to hope amid hardship. We've walked through dusty alleys, sat in market stalls, and listened to voices often left unheard. And through it all, we've seen resilience not in grand monuments, but in the everyday acts of survival and kindness. So the next time you visit Cambodia, look beyond the stone walls. Take the time to explore the neighborhoods, meet the people, and learn the rhythm of their lives. Because Siem Reap is not just a heritage site, it's a living, breathing testament to the human spirit. If this story moved, you consider supporting us by liking the video, subscribing to NVL Travel Documentary, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice helps us keep telling the stories that matter. And as the sun sets over the red dirt roads, remember, sometimes the most powerful journeys begin where the guidebook ends.